Well, it's a tale of two extremes today. We've got severe weather that's continuing to move east from what we saw yesterday. We've had a lot of severe weather across the Central Plains, and that is all starting to shift off to the east. Now we're also dealing with some really cold and just damp, and I don't know how to say it other than maybe some gross weather continuing. And I'll tell you what's interesting about this setup too is temperatures could be close to 20 to as low as 35 degrees below average. Incredible to see this chilly air this time of year. We're going to look at some of these temperatures. And by the way, just as a preview, these are afternoon temperatures today in the lower 40s and even 30s up around the Great Lakes and to the northern plains and to parts of the Dakotas. And all of this is pushing east too. And some of that cold air is going to drop to the south over the next couple of days. And you're already feeling it in some of these areas. Now, let's turn our attention to the severe weather at hand because it is shifting east today. We do have a couple of things to talk about, but first let me show you the targeted areas, then we'll get back to those ingredients. We now have an enhanced area that is pushed a little bit maybe further to the east than it was yesterday here into East Tennessee, as far east as far southwest Virginia, right here in the very tip, and then into parts of eastern Kentucky and central Kentucky. Now, in northern Kentucky, you're in a slight risk that goes all the way up in Indiana and Illinois as well, and as far east as the upstate of South Carolina and western North Carolina. Now, I think you watch northern Mississippi, northern Alabama, West Tennessee, and a good chunk of Kentucky today, also into the evening and to tonight. All hazards on the table, especially tornadoes, especially here into Mississippi and Tennessee. As we get into the afternoon and evening, there's going to be some question, I think, as to the amount of recovery that we're going to see because there are some storms that are moving through during the morning hours that might inhibit some of the storm development. However, there should be good recovery in the afternoon. And with that said, I think we see some strong storms, some supercells developing, and maybe even a few intense tornadoes as well. Here's the driver of it. Height falls are happening. That's cold air aloft. We're seeing that happening as our cold front moves through, and underneath that, a lot of instability. And then just once we move into tomorrow, that threat moves more to the east. And I do want to show you this. So much cold air just cut off here. Temperatures way below average. And look, this digs east. So if you're in Ohio, Pennsylvania, West Virginia, Michigan, Indiana, I mean, any of these states here in around the Ohio Valley and the Great Lakes, and even further east, Pennsylvania, Maryland, it's going to get chilly as we head through the week. Much colder than average for the east and the northeast. So big changes on the way here. Take a look at these temperatures, by the way, and we'll dig into that severe weather. We're going to dig through these numbers. Look, 30s and 40s. This is taking you through Thursday. We do see some recovery by the time we get toward Thursday, and then that chilly air starts to move in and around the Great Lakes. A little bit of a different look here into the east. Let's start off with where we are now. A lot of warm air surging north ahead of our front, but as this upper low swings through the Great Lakes into the northeast, temperatures drop. So by Thursday, high temperatures will likely only be, man, if you can get some sunshine, you may pop into the 50s, but if you stay in the clouds across parts of the Ohio Valley, I don't know that we get out of the 40s, and some of the mountains into the northeast may be stuck in the 30s. So this is some pretty cold air for this time of year. Again, way below average, and we do see some recovery. It's hot, though, across the south. Go to Florida. We're getting very close to the upper 90s here, and all across the deep south, across southern Alabama, southern Mississippi. It's pretty easy to see where our front is. Look at this. Below our front, temperatures from Macon, I don't know, maybe Birmingham may be a stretch, but over towards Mobile, southern Mississippi, back into Louisiana, we're talking about mid-90s, jump north of the front into the Ohio Valley. By Sunday, we could be in the 40s. So some pretty gross weather, in my opinion. Now, we've talked about that severe threat today. Let's dig into this just a little bit more. That tornado threat is on the table today, too, especially across Kentucky, down into Mississippi as our front moves through. This hatched area is definitely a significant area of concern. That threat shifts east, too, as we head through the day into tonight. So watch these storms as they move into eastern Kentucky, northwest Georgia, even the Carolinas, and then parts of far southwest Virginia and West Virginia. These generally will have a tendency to weaken as they move east, and then into tomorrow, we're looking at parts of northeast West Virginia, down into Virginia, and then along the east coast here from the Piedmont of North Carolina down into the coastal plain of South Carolina, Georgia, and then eventually down into Florida. And there is a very low risk of tornadoes, enough shear that could be a concern tomorrow here from parts of West Virginia, Virginia, and also into North Carolina. Let's time these storms out, and we'll look at things. Now, we do have these ongoing storms through the morning hours across a good chunk of Arkansas. These will move east into northwest Mississippi. Some of these could have some damaging winds, some hail, an isolated tornado. I don't think you could completely rule it out. But with this first line moving through, now the question is, how unstable can we get once this moves through? Will we see enough sunshine? I think the limiting factor is not going to be the cold front. It's not going to be the upper level dynamics, which, by the way, are there. We've got this decent jet streak. There it is, swinging out of Arkansas, kicking northeast into Indiana and Illinois. On the front right side of this is generally where you see your severe weather. So in this area, as our front moves east, the upper level dynamics are there. The question is, can we get enough sunshine? Will there be enough atmospheric recovery to pop these cells and get them going in this warm sector, if you will, ahead of your main cold front, which is still back here? So if we do, and it looks like we will, supercells will be the primary threat at first. You're going to get those low-level winds increasing. You've got mid-level winds increasing, a lot of wind shear, so these storms are going to rotate. They're going to continue to live, I guess, so to speak, or be refueled, so they could be long tracks. So now you're looking at the potential for some strong tornadoes and some strong storms with some hail. Could be up to tennis ball size in some of the stronger storms. I don't think everybody gets that clearly, but that threat now pushing east as we move through the overnight toward the 8 o'clock hour central. The time above my head is central time, so now we're looking into northern Mississippi, so Tupelo, north of that up toward Memphis, Jackson, Tennessee, Nashville, up towards Bowling Green, Evansville. Yeah, this area is also under the risk of some severe storms too. Some of them could be really strong. Southern Indiana, southern Illinois, and now these push further to the east. So once we get toward the 9 o'clock central time frame, everything south of Tupelo, south of Memphis, really east of Nashville at this point. Now we're looking toward East Tennessee, Knoxville, Chattanooga, northwest Georgia, really north of Atlanta, I think, and then up into Tennessee, Kentucky, eastern Kentucky. So from really Lexington east into the eastern part of the state here, into the mountains of southwest Virginia, West Virginia, once we get towards late tonight. The good news is, the silver lining for this region is it will be moving through during the time period when there's the least amount of instability, but some of these storms could hold some severe characteristics through the overnight. And then this pushes east. Now we're looking at what happens on Wednesday. All right, backing this up just a little bit, I skipped through Ohio, also Indiana and Illinois a little bit. Some of these up into this region could get on the strong to severe side. The thing is, you're not as unstable up here, but I do want to show you there is a risk that some of these could be strong today. However, once they move into Ohio, Pennsylvania, West Virginia, you just don't have the environment to keep these severe storms going. And then as we head into tomorrow, again, a lot of wind shear. So if your low is wrapping up here, you got to wonder about this area. That's the reason that I think there is a risk of a few weak tornadoes, maybe. I don't know. Let's just watch this time period here from West Virginia into the Carolinas. If we can get enough instability, things could start to pop. All right, a little bit of a closer look here. Let's zoom in here back into parts of the Mid-South, and we will sort of track these through the Deep South too, moving through, because I think, again, this is a bit of a different look on the HRRR. There's that first band of storms moving through, but here's how things are showing up on the HRRR into the afternoon across West Tennessee, East Arkansas, Northeast Louisiana. Yeah, so say by 5 o'clock, we could be looking at some pretty strong storms. And just the looks of these, they look dangerous. You can kind of see these individual cells showing up on the HRRR. They may eventually evolve into more of a Boeing line of storms, and that would be producing damaging winds. And then even embedded in that, there could be some tornadoes too. So to me, it looks like a pretty prime tornado setup, and it's not just me looking at it, thinking that. The Storm Prediction Center, again, also seeing that in this region heading into the afternoon and also into the evening hours today. All right, let's shift this just a little bit further to the north and east, up into Kentucky, Tennessee. I'm going to back this up. Again, we have this first round of storms that will be moving through today. The question will be how much recovery will happen behind this across Kentucky, also into Tennessee. I think the further south you are, the better the recovery of the atmosphere, so more severe storms likely, but these will continue to push east as we move into the evening hours. I'm going to put this down to the 6Z, which goes out a little bit further. I'm talking to myself here. If you're joining the live stream and you're just dropping in, you can always take it back from the beginning. We're talking about the severe weather and the cold weather ahead. And if you've missed any of these videos, again, I say this all the time, subscribe. You can watch them anytime at your own pleasure. All right, these move east tonight. And tomorrow, we, again, focus on the Mid-Atlantic, also into West Virginia, down into North Carolina for the potential for some of these getting strong. Let's look long range now. Low pressure moving toward the Great Lakes. I do want to say cold enough on the northern side of this that we could see some snow mixing in into parts of Minnesota, South Dakota. Pretty impressive to see that as we head into the, early morning hours, Wednesday morning, picking up here overnight, Tuesday night into Wednesday. Low pressure moving toward the Great Lakes, spinning all of this cold air around it. And cold, damp, kind of gross with snow mixing in here into the northern mountains of New England. Across the rest of the country, again, into the Midwest, into the South, we're turning much colder here too, except that front sort of stalls like this. So below that front, it's going to stay pretty warm. A few showers starting to increase as we head into Saturday as low pressure moves across the plains. This isn't going to move the same way as our storm now. It's not going to head toward the Great Lakes and deep. And if anything, it's probably just going to ride along this front. So I tell you one thing too, we've had a lot of rain in this area. So the ground is saturated. Flooding is a risk today, I think, especially with any storms that form. But now we're looking at multiple rounds of rain, possibly over the next couple of days. This takes us through Tuesday. So with this kind of a wet, soggy look, wherever that front ends up settling out. Across the west, though, I'm going to back this up and take you back from today. We've got some snow flying in the northern Rockies, but changes are happening here too, but it's not cooling down. It's warming up. As this ridge builds, the trough digs in the east and the upper levels. The cool air digs in here. Across the west, we start to warm up as our ridge pumps north. Some showers on the northern side of this, kind of going up and over this and then down into the south. That sort of looks to me like the flow. It's like this, and then everything riding along your front here to the east as we head into the first part of next week and staying dry here across the west. Maybe check this out, maybe by the time we get toward Monday, enough moisture for some afternoon storms popping in the mountains. All right, that's all I got for this video today, guys. Again, if you're new, hope you'll come back and subscribe. Thanks for watching. Have a great Tuesday. See you next